who are you really? You could be fat, but you could be the fittest person at heart. So what do? My physical sense of me has gone out the window. I'm fat and I'm lazy, but deep down in my heart, I know I can be disciplined. That's perfect. I know that my own perception, other people's perception is flawed, but in my heart, in my soul, I know who I am. So now you can go and act on that.
Yo, what is up, everyone, and welcome to the Standouts podcast. I hope everyone is doing well and is staying safe during these times. I really wanted to create this podcast to introduce you guys to some of the most influential people, both for me and for others, who can help you through your own personal journey, getting to know yourself and being able to chase your goals in the world. So I'm super excited today to announce my very first guest and great friend of mine. He is a 16-year-old professional football freestyle athlete who's taking a new approach to the sport and also working on his own book documenting his own self-improvement journey. So let me introduce to you guys Nick Seyda.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, Sammy, for having me on. I'm really excited to be the first guest, man. It's an honor.
We couldn't get through that intro without laughing, man.
Yeah, that took us like 5-10 tries.
Guys, just a preface, we've actually been talking for an hour and a half now, just purely trying to get Zoom to work, and it didn't work, so we're on Facebook Messenger.
So many troubles, so many troubles. Oh, we're here now. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. So let's jump straight into it. So I guess my first thing, I don't even have to look at my notes because I already remember this. Bro, so back in August, right, you ran this full marathon without training, and I just remember like scrolling through my feed. You always have the craziest posts, so I'm always ready, but like I wasn't even ready for this, and I'm sure a lot of people
I wasn't ready either.
A lot of people are wondering, like, what was that process like? Like, what were your struggles? Like, what really made you come up with that idea in the first place, and what was it like?
Yeah, so some of my biggest inspirations are like David Goggins and Chad Wright, and these people are, most of them are like former Navy SEALs and stuff, so they're all about doing things you hate for the sake of mental toughness. And that was something, so like I've gone through my own personal battles with my health and things like that, so I knew what it was like to struggle and get through it, and I know that's a very rewarding feeling, and it also helps build up your mentality because, you know, if you've never struggled in life, when you struggle for your first time, it's going to be like a slap in the face. Whereas now, if I get sick or I have an injury, it's just like, all right, so be it. Let's keep moving. And I don't really get put back or like get, you know, bogged down by things anymore because I've taken the time to, you know, improve myself mentally. And one of the goals I had that I knew was going to force me to reach a new level in my mind of, you know, getting through pain, force myself to push through something I've never pushed through before, was a race of some sort. So I had a few ideas that I was just writing down while I was reading David Goggins' book, actually. One of them was a triathlon. Another one was swim a mile. And a mile, like, I was like, oh, it can't seem that bad. But I remember swimming like 100 yards in a pool. I'm like, man, I'm gassed after 100 yards. Like a mile, that's like crazy. And I talked with my mom about it one time. I'm like, how far is a mile swimming? Because she's done a triathlon before. And she's like, for ours, we did a quarter mile. And it feels like forever. Like you're in that water for like half an hour. And I'm like, that's just a quarter mile. I'm like, a full mile. I'm like, that's 2 hours straight of swimming. So I'm like, that could be an interesting goal. Or maybe, you know, a half marathon or a marathon. And then one day, for some reason, I was like, man, like I haven't done a challenge in a while because I keep a note, I keep a document of all my trainings and then also like mental training. So things like cold showers and stuff like that. And I realized it had been a few months without me doing a really hard challenge. The last one I did was I sleep deprived myself and saw how long I could train for. So I didn't sleep for 24 hours. And then over those next 24 hours, every 4 hours, I'd train freestyle for 1 hour, do 100 push-ups, and 7 minutes of flutter kicks. So over 48 hours, I slept like a total of like 3 hours. But I did 7 hours of freestyle, 700 push-ups, and almost a little bit less than an hour of flutter kicks. So that was like one of the challenges I had, was like sleep deprive myself and see how far I could go. And I realized it's been a few months, haven't done anything. So I was like, all right, what's the challenge? Look at my list, and I'm like, that marathon is kind of poking out at me, man. I haven't ran in forever, and 2 months before that I broke my toe. So basically I hadn't done a whole lot of physical stuff in the past 3 months in total. I'd been back training for a few weeks, but I was like, all right, I'm in terrible running shape. A marathon by itself is hard. Like, this is a perfect time. Like, it's not going to get any worse. So I was like, all right, this is basically like the worst time I could do it. Let me give it a go. And then I was going to do it, I believe it was a Tuesday. I said I was going to do it Wednesday, but we lost power. So I didn't do it Wednesday. And then I was like, oh, whatever, I'll do it like next week or something. But then the next day, my mom was like, hey, we were talking. I was like, hey, I want to go and try to run a half marathon. I've been training. I told her I'd been training. I haven't. And I had to convince her to bring me there because I knew she'd be like, absolutely not. You're not running a marathon with no training. It's a death wish. But I was like, nah, like, I'm doing it. So I had to lie to her, which I felt really bad about. Obviously, I explained it all later, and she was proud of me. Like, upset, obviously, but she was proud of me at the end of it. But, yeah, so we lost power. But then that second day, on Thursday, we got power back, and my mom was like, hey, I'm going for a run. Do you want to join me? She's like, you could do your half marathon now. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So without, like, having that hard mental preparation of taking a day or two to really, like, focus on it, it was really just, like, an hour or two of me, like, all right, well, I got to do it now. Like, I only have an hour or two before I start running. Like, I got to prepare. So I just wrote down, like, I'm going to finish this 26.2 miles. I'm going to finish this 26.2 miles. I'm going to finish this 26. I would just wrote it down, just hand wrote it a couple times, just get it in my mind that I was going to finish.
Wow.
And then, so my first 5 miles I walked because I had never been to the place before. So my mom was walking that with me because she was going to go for a run too. And not a half marathon. I think in total she did like 8 miles or something, which obviously was really impressive. But we walked the first 5 miles, so I knew my route, and I was like, all right, perfect. And I started running, and honestly, it was basically smooth sailing. I mean, like a lot of pain and stuff, but nothing like physically damaged until around mile 20. Because at mile 20, my calves started to lock up, and I'd feel them tense up. And over the next few steps, from the time I felt it start to tense up to the time I literally couldn't stand would be only like 10 yards. So around mile 20, my calves would lock up so tightly, I'd lose feeling in my feet, and I'd literally fall down. I couldn't stand because I had no feeling in my feet. And I'd have to lay on the ground for a few minutes until I got feeling back, and I'd start again. And it happened a few times until mile 22. Because at mile 22, anytime I went faster than a walking pace, I would have my calves lock up so tightly I couldn't go faster. And I realized that walking was going to be my only way to complete it. But I was at mile 22, so I knew, all right, all I have to do was walk those last 4 miles. And those last 4 miles took me like, I think an hour and a half. So my time until that was that of like an average like marathon runner. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm making decent time, right? Not like pro marathon runner, but I was like, this is like, if I were to train for this, I bet my time would be pretty close. Like if, let's say I took 2 months to train, I assume my time would have been very similar to that. But obviously, not training, I hit that muscle failure at mile 22. So those last 4 miles took me like what seemed like forever. And it was just pain every single step. It was terrible. But the one thing that I did during that process, more than I'd ever done before, was use the spoken word, like the power of spoken word, which I knew had power, but I didn't quite know until I really tested myself there. So basically, throughout that whole process, whenever I'd feel pain or I'd be like, man, like this is getting tough, like the pain would become real enough where I'd start to limp or something, I'd start to talk to myself, and I used 3 phrases just over and over and over. The first one was "Can't Hurt Me" from David Goggins. Second one was "I Feel Great," which is from Chad Wright and Jesse Itzler, because that's I heard them talk about that's what they say to themselves when they start to feel pain while running or doing any of the other races. And the last one was "Keep Pushing," because I said that a few years back in my documentary, and I didn't have, that was just me like speaking from the heart. I didn't really have any brand built around it, but now like "Keep Pushing" is kind of like part of my identity. That's, I guess you'd call it my slogan. So I kept those 3 phrases just on repeat. I kept saying them to myself, And over those last 4 miles, I didn't shut up. I just kept saying them to myself, kind of keeping myself busy, but 2, also trying to use that power of the spoken word. And it definitely does work. Partially because 1, your mind is getting off the pain for a little bit while you're talking, but 2, your body does listen to yourself. Like when I would say, I feel great, when I say that for 10 minutes in a row, and I'm actively trying to feel great, the pain doesn't seem as bad. The pain level didn't drop. It was just in my mind, I stopped focusing on it, and it didn't seem as bad, because if you're saying, I feel great, your body is going to eventually start to think like that. It's going to act on it. So the spoken word really helped me. And yeah, those last few miles were a wreck, but obviously I got through it and I finished those 26.2 miles. I actually did a little bit more than 27. I actually went like almost a full mile more than I had to, because during one of those run back and forths, my mom was leaving because I told her I was going to stretch. But I realized that I had to go back and meet her, so I ran half a mile into the course and realized, oh wait, I have to go and say bye to my mom. I'm not going to leave. I'm a mama's boy. I'm always going to go and say bye to my mom. So I ran that half a mile back. So I added a whole nother mile, but like didn't count it until the end when I realized, like, wait, that was when I charted it back out and see exactly how I ran. I was like, wait, I added an extra mile. So it was a little bit more than 27 to be exact. But it was a really tough challenge. And it was very strenuous to get through. But at the end of it, it was completely worth it. Like that feeling at the end is just, nothing compares to that feeling.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think of David Goggins, and I haven't read as much into his work as definitely you have, but I just remember he was on Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu, and he was talking about like this one time he was completing, I forget what the distance was, but his shins were literally like broken.
Yeah. He did Navy SEAL training on broken legs and a 100-mile race.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I'm like, man, that is so crazy. So yeah, what you talked about is really important. It digs into like how your mindset affects your body, and it's very interesting because a lot of people think like, especially when it comes to health, it's like, yeah, what you eat, like how well you sleep, all these different things, but it's also like your mental state is one of the most important environments you can cultivate.
For sure.
So
Absolutely.
you got yourself through that challenge by saying, all right, you know, my body might be hurting, but if I cultivate my mental state, this will help me compensate for that. So that's very interesting. And is there any, like, do you have any more content that we would be able to see about the run? Because I know the only thing you posted on Instagram was that clip at the end where you were like, I just completed it. Is there anything else we can see?
I had an entire YouTube video done. It was like 8 minutes or so. Only the last minute was actual footage. I took footage during the way, but it's not. I have it finished and I posted it for a day or two for people to see. But then I took it down because I wanted to do something more extensive on it.
Oh, got you.
But I ended up not doing an even longer video. So maybe I'll put it back up, or maybe I'll like actually master it, like create a full video on it. And I'll probably end up doing that. I have a lot of short film ideas I want to film, and I've completed one so far. But I'm sure I'll end up doing a longer length video on that. Who knows? Maybe after this podcast, I'll end up working on a little bit now that you've given me that idea. Because it's basically done. Like, I have it outlined. I have the footage. So, yeah, over the next few weeks, I'll unprivate it and you guys can see more of that background footage.
Bro, I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that. And of course, guys, I mentioned this in the intro. Nick is 16 years old. You just turned 16.
Yeah, I turned 16 2.5 weeks ago.
So, guys, imagine this mindset, like how far. This is why I was so like, man, like I have to have Nick as my first person on here because he inspires me so much. I'm 22. Like, he's 6 years younger than me. And just the way he thinks it's like so far ahead of someone his age, and it's just super inspiring to me, man. Like how you overcome
Thank you.
obstacles
I
like that
appreciate that.
and how you push yourself, man. So, yeah, so hearing about that, then I know you've talked about like you've had a lot of obstacles other than that in your life. Like maybe talk about some of your biggest challenges that you've faced in your life
Yeah,
this far.
so when I was born prematurely, I forget the exact number, but I was given a very low percent chance of survival. And the doctor said if I survived, I would never walk, talk, or breathe a day on my own, which
Really?
obviously they were wrong about. But that didn't come without repercussions because throughout my first years of life, I had a lot of surgeries and just a lot of medical problems. And my last surgery I had, I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old. And I haven't had surgery since then. I've had procedures, but never surgery. But one of my first like real big problem that I can remember, because I don't remember the surgeries except for the last one. The first big problem that I remember was getting OCD of the knee. So at the time I was playing soccer at a really high level. I was playing for a club team, but I had offers to play in England and Argentina, representing the USA there. Not like a USA youth team or whatever, but a more like private kind of club that you couldn't play for unless you were invited. So I was lucky enough to be invited there, tried out. I actually tried out with my favorite soccer coach's kid. Do you know who Mike Petke is?
No, I don't.
He used to be the coach of the New York Red Bulls, and I played against his son during the tryout. And I like took pictures with him after and stuff. It was really cool.
Oh, nice.
But I'd offers to play there, and that was like my dream. I was like so excited and stuff, but that knee injury happened, and nobody knows a lot about it because it's such a rare disease. And
So what was it called again?
it's called OCD. It's like osteochondrodissections or something like. It's some long name. I forget exactly what it is, but
Oh, wow. Okay.
there's only a few doctors who actually have studied it in the world, and luckily one of them was in New York City. So I went into New York City on a regular basis to have him help with my journey, like my healing process, but then also document like how I was feeling because it was so new. So that took me out of contact sports for over a year. Maybe almost like 2 years. I never played seriously. I haven't played serious soccer since then except for school teams. I played for my middle school team my second and third year, and now I play in high school. My season ended yesterday, actually. It was our last game. But yeah, so that knee injury was terrible because I was playing soccer every single day and like making very solid improvement. I was, I had offers to play in other countries. Like I was really there. Like that was like my goal, right? And it just completely stopped, and I was on crutches for a few months and months of physical therapy. I had to relearn to, walk and run properly and stuff. It was bad. But along the way, I found freestyle because I would still go to New York Red Bull games even though I couldn't play soccer at the time. I still wanted to watch it. And since New York is our closest pro team, I went and watched them. And I saw the freestylers out front who are now, which now I'm part of. I'm part of the New York Red Bull freestyle crew. But at the time, I had no clue what it was. I didn't know. I assumed they were doing soccer tricks. I didn't know it was a sport. So I saw them and I was watching. And one of the things we do is if people are watching us, we pass them the ball. Because, I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. All right, I'm good. We'd pass the ball to kids walking by, obviously, because, like, you want to get the youth involved. And they passed me the ball, and I flicked it up and started juggling just because I knew how. And, yeah, I showed them I could juggle, and they were like, oh, if you can juggle, you can try this. And they showed me some very basic skills, and I learned them pretty quickly just because I had, like, a good touch. I'd played soccer for a few years. I could juggle decently well. So the first few freestyle tricks, sorry, throat's getting a bit dry.
No, it's all good. You've been talking a bit, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so those first few freestyle tricks were easy, and they told me this is a sport by itself, not related to soccer. It's called freestyle football. So when I got home, I looked it up. That was it. I was introduced to the world of freestyle on YouTube. That's where I first looked it up. And I would just binge these videos, and then I'd start going back to the games and like, hey, I saw a guy do this. Can you do it? Or I learned a few of those basic skills by myself just from watching the videos. I really didn't watch many tutorials until later on. So yeah, I'd show them, hey, I learned this skill. I saw this guy do this. Can you do that live for me? Yeah, we just started kind of like collaborating like that. Very basic stuff. And eventually a few of them took me under their wing because they saw that I was improving and I loved it. Like I was interested in this sport and I understood that it wasn't soccer. That was different. And they started within my first 6 months or so. Within my first 6 months of freestyling there. And like on my own. I guess you could call it training even though it wasn't like hard training. It was just kind of for fun. They started letting me do shows with them. So I kind of was like thrown right into the mix of performing. And from there, when I had offers to go back to playing soccer, I was like, I think I want to do this freestyle thing fully. So yeah, I ended up not going back to soccer and just doing freestyle full time. And now it's led me to here, so I have no regrets whatsoever.
Wow, that is crazy. And so who were the guys that you saw? It wasn't like Taz at that time, was it?
No. I was watching them and stuff in 2016 or 17.
Okay.
So it was Gabriel, Victor, Richie, Lucas. So some of them are DJ, some of them are still there.
Oh, wow.
Some of them aren't, but now I'm part of the team, which is amazing.
That is crazy. So you took something that like basically you thought derailed your entire path of what you wanted to do, and it led you to something completely different that you found a new passion in. That's crazy. I mean, that's the reason I know Nick is through freestyle. Like, if it was never for that, then we would never have met. So, man, that is the craziest thing. And it's interesting because, like, obviously you've proven yourself as, like, a high-level freestyler in the U.S., but now you're taking sort of, like, a different approach with your freestyle, and you're doing more of, like, the action comedy stuff. So, like, talk a little bit about that because that's very interesting. And me personally, like, you know, we've, you know, just to a background for everyone that's watching, me and Nick have been talking somewhat extensively, you know, more like here and there about the future of freestyle and, you know, how you can ultimately monetize your passion. And so it's interesting how you came up with this idea of mixing freestyle with action comedy, which is something that no one has really done yet, to my knowledge. So, like, talk about that. Like,
there's been a few people like Jordan and them who have dabbled in it, like done a video or two where it's similar, but not to the extent where I'm going.
Jordan from France,
and,
you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to start to do something different because I was talking with DJ Divany. He's helped me with my social media and stuff. He's been like a kind of a social media mentor. And he was saying that if you want your social media to stand out, you either have to be the best in it, make like the best content, or you have to just be different. So when he was talking to me, he was like, you could either be super high level freestyle, know everything about the sport, or you can make more digestible content, like go on a soccer field, do a trick and hit the crossbar, stuff like that. And it's like, I do not want to do the combine it with just soccer route because I've seen how that doesn't give freestyle the right name. You see someone like F2 freestylers, they're not freestylers. And so it gives it a bad name. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to stay true to the sport. And I was just thinking, and I was like, all right, like, I'll give it a thought. And I started watching some of my old videos. And around the time I started training parkour, just purely for fun, because one of my friends asked if I want to go to a parkour gym because he was interested. And I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. And we saw some people training there, so I started learning the very basic movements, basic jumps, you know, swinging on a rail, whatever. And I'm still very basic at it. I don't train parkour very much. I train flips maybe once every 2 weeks. But I was interested in parkour too, so I was like, for a video for my Instagram, how about I combine them? And I did a plyo. I did.
Sorry, bro. 1 second. I just gotta. My camera stopped. It's really annoying.
It's all good.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
All right, good. All right. Um. So I was interested in parkour and I was interested in freestyle and I want to combine them for a video. And I did a very basic parkour move. It's either called like a plyo or a dino. It's basically where you dive with your hands and then your feet go through where your hands were. So imagine instead of jumping over a rail, you lean over it with your hands. And it's hard. It's a little bit hard to explain. I can guarantee you if you've been on social media, you've seen anything parkour related, free running or like Ninja Warrior related, you've seen this move. Super, like, unbelievably basic. And I did that and then catched the ball between my knees at the end. And I posted it and it did really well compared to how my videos were doing at the time. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. But I went back to just normal freestyle. And, yeah, so I had that idea in my head. But then when DJ was like, you could try to do something different. I was like, man, like I really want to do this like freestyle mixed with free running / action comedy, but I just don't know, like no one's done it before. Like who's to say that I'm going to be the first and it's going to go well? Like what are the chances? I'm an optimistic person, but also when it comes to something like social media, there are things that work and things that don't work. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to be received because it's out there. It's not as common. And I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. It can't hurt to try. First video I posted of that action comedy style was my first video in over a year to hit 20,000 views. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is perfect. And and one of the people that I was watching for inspiration was Pasha the Boss. Pasha Petkun's from Russia, lives in LA. Someone on that video, first video I posted, wrote, reminds me of Pasha the Boss. And I was like, that's it right there. Like, I want to make videos like this guy. They said, this reminds me of Pasha. And yes, so I was like, that's it. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, if this dude was one of my inspirations, Pasha, who I was watching before I even started parkour, I just thought his videos were interesting. And somebody said, this reminds me of him. And I was like, that could be it. I'm going to be like Pasha the Boss, but add a ball into it. So I was like, all right, how can I create movements similar to what Pasha does, where it almost has like a character to it? Like there's a style to it. He's going to do something with, falling or rolling or spinning, something, right? When you click on his video, you're going to be surprised. You're going to see something that no one else is doing. I was like, all right, I don't want to copy him. I want to take his principles, apply them to myself, and create my own style. So I was like, all right. So I started training a little bit more parkour, just very basic stuff still. And then I just started like brainstorming, like, all right, how am I going to add a ball into these movements that I know how to do? And I just started coming up with ideas, like some super basic, easy stuff that I've posted and have done well. Some really complex stuff that I've posted, done well. And I've just done so many of these movements, just starting from the most basic things you can imagine, like ball between my knees and spin. Now can I do it at height? Now can I do it with a drop? Now can I do it where I bend my knees? Now can I do it while I flip? Just take a simple movement, see where I can go with it, add it to my surroundings. And I feel like that's what action comedy is. Can you take something simple, like falling, add it to your environment? You fall downstairs, make it funny, give it a characteristic. That's what the greatest action comedy people have done, like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. So I just started experimenting with these videos and posting them, and people were really interested in them. And I felt very free in my movement. I felt like I was doing something new, and I didn't have guidelines, and it was just me. Like, this was freestyle for me. When I was doing freestyle before, I was following a set of guidelines. I knew I had to improve on this, and that. But when I was doing freestyle with action comedy, I was free. There were no guidelines. It was up to me, and I was like, this is my freestyle. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my start to it and why I've continued to go with it, just because I love doing it and people seem to really enjoy it. And then also, it just lines up with my goals of wanting to do. My goals are always, things that are going to challenge me, things that could be new. I want to be the first in the world to do things. And I realized that action comedy could be my avenue to tick off my goals. One of my goals I've had for the past few years, uh, was to be first in the world to land something. There are so many freestyle tricks that have been done that the chances of me being first in the world to land something is there. Like, I can do it, but it also is going to be super drastic. Like, I'm going to have to do something really new because there are thousands of freestylers now. There's videos posted every minute. Like, I'm going to have to be really, really new. And I was like, if I add action comedy into this, every single movement I do could be new. So I was just filled with this, new motivation of, let me push my freestyle, let me push my free running, and combine them into something that's like freestyle slash free running slash action comedy. And I've loved it. I haven't second guessed myself at all. I feel like this is kind of what I was meant for in the freestyle scene.
Well, I don't think you should second guess yourself because I'm just looking here and this video you did with the swing is at 2.2 million now.
Yeah,
So,
one of my videos. Yeah.
Like,
That
guys,
one went crazy.
this is insane. Like, man, so clearly you see that, like, people are reacting to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I definitely, like, what you just said about, sort of finding that new motivation in something new, something that hasn't been explored. I really feel that a lot. And I especially feel it with freestyle because in freestyle, it can be very difficult to sort of feel, and of course, this is coming more from like an outside perspective, but it's very difficult to feel appreciated when you
I understand that.
you train for 4 or 5 hours a day and it's like, sure, you can become world champion, you can do all this stuff, and within the community, like, everyone thinks like you're the best, and of course that respect is so amazing to have and to feel, but at the same time it's like the world is so big and freestyle is such a small part of the world. So what I'm interested about what you're doing is you're taking freestyle, but you're sort of packaging it in a way that the rest of the world can understand it better by using more sort of common themes, using your surroundings, using, like, in a sense, simpler movements, but at the same time, like, being more effective with it. So, yeah, go ahead.
The way I kind of thought about how this could be more universal, because that was something that DJ told me. He's like, if you want to make a living off of doing something like freestyle, because he's been able to do that. He's making a living off of freestyle, and now he makes like soccer type videos. And I have mad respect for him because he was a strict, like, in my opinion, if he 4 years ago, if he competed in the USA Championships, I've no doubt he would have won. He was such a good freestyler. Like, I don't think people know him now as someone who's really good at, soccer, trick shot kind of things, because he now is like, guys, I do soccer stuff. Like, I'm not just a freestyler. But when he used to just be a freestyler, he was insane. Like, the first 2 seasons I was at Red Bull, when he was like a strict freestyler, so good. But the thing he was telling me is, like, if you can do something like freestyle but make it general, you can hit so many more audiences. So I was like, all right. So one of my inspirations is Buster Keaton. He's from the silent film era. If you've seen a silent film or watched anything from the silent film area, studied it even for 10 minutes, you're going to know who Buster Keaton is, right? One of the most popular actors or comedists, I guess you could call it, of the silent film era. And I was like, this guy, his movements are actually very hard. Like, I've watched the silent films he's been in. I've tried to recreate some of those movements, and they are really hard. So if let's say he was in today's times, he wouldn't be a super, I guess he could have 2 options. He could be a super skilled and very technique-oriented parkour or free runner, or he could do what he did and be in movies and add his action comedy, super difficult stuff there, but make it look like everyday things that everyone can relate to. Everyone's like falling down the stairs. He falls down the stairs, looks like he busted every bone in his body, but the whole time it was planned. So he has this immense skill and technique, but makes it look like something an everyday person could understand. And I was like, that's what I want to do with freestyle. take a super hard trick or technique, combine it with my environment, and make it something like, oh, he just kicked the ball between a swing and caught it. But in all reality, I had to learn soul stall. I had to learn how to throw a soul stall up and how to catch an X. Most people can't do that, but most people can imagine a swing going back and forth and kicking a ball through it. That doesn't seem hard. So I'm trying to take something that everybody can appreciate and combine it with a very specific sport, which is freestyle football.
Bro, give me 1 second here. I gotta bring this up because this is so pertinent to what you just said. So I'm reading a book right now called Blue Ocean Strategy. You've probably heard of it.
Okay. I haven't heard of it.
Okay, it's a very interesting book that you should take a look at because it talks a lot about what you're doing in the sense that the idea of Blue Ocean Strategy is most people, when they try and do something, they try and compete with others. So you think of like freestyle, for example. Someone starts freestyle, they think, all right, I want to be US champ, I want to be world champ, and then they just go into that red ocean that's filled with people all competing for one thing. Whereas what you're doing is you're forging something that has value but is also untapped. So you're basically creating your own ocean, your own blue ocean of possibility where it's like wide open. Yet at the same time, you're giving value to people in what you do. And it's interesting because you've built that skill set of freestyle that no one can do, but you've sort of recognized that like, okay, I may have this amazing skill set, but can the world really relate to this through the language that I'm using? So it's like
relating it. It's definitely.
So it's like taking your words and putting it into a language that everyone can understand, because I firmly believe that the language you choose to communicate things through is how your idea is going to be heard. You can have the craziest idea, but if no one understands it and finds value in it, it's not going to really pop off.
I think every freestyler can relate to that. You think of all the crazy combos and combinations you can do, but until you do it, nobody can fully understand it. Until they do it themselves, they can't fully understand it.
Exactly. So when you add things like the swing, when you add things like jumping, it's like bringing people into this world. And so what I wanted to talk about just really quickly, I know this interview is about you, but the Blue Ocean Strategy book, it talks about value innovation and why most people fail when they're trying to innovate is because either they do one of two things. They add value without innovating. So this would be in the sense of like, take yourself as a freestyle performer. If you wanted to just like, make a living doing shows and all of that, and you were adding value to people's lives, but, it wasn't really something crazy. It's just like, okay, this is just another guy that does soccer tricks. So it's like you're adding value to people's lives, but you're not really innovating. The second route would be, I'll talk about this purely in a freestyle context because I assume many people are watching freestyle and they'll probably understand it. For those that don't understand freestyle, gotta think of a better way to put it in the future. But so the first one, back on track. First one, value without innovation. You add value, but you're not really doing anything new. The second one is where I think freestyle is now. This is like the true freestyler category, as opposed to like the sellout kind of he just does shows. The true freestylers, they're innovating, but they're not delivering value. So they're doing all these crazy hard tricks and these new creative things. But, and this is the reason that a lot of freestylers get frustrated because they're like, I trained 5 hours a day and, I won world championships, but I didn't get anything from it. Because you sort of got to take a step back and realize that you're innovating, but you're not necessarily delivering value to the person you're trying to deliver value. Yeah. And so you see this with a lot of like technological innovations. Like people come up like, man, I have this crazy idea. We're going to make like a toothbrush that has like LED lights and like you have like a disco party in your bathroom. It's like, yeah, that's dope. But who's going to buy that? Like, does that really matter?
Yeah. It's innovating, but how much value is that?
Exactly. So what I see you doing is you're really creating a core value innovation because you're innovating with your freestyle skill set. Other people can't do that. But at the same time, you're delivering value in the terms of like you're providing this entertainment value to people in a language they understand. So
Yeah,
I
that's
just
a good way to put it for sure.
I really wanted to highlight that because, like, again, we've talked about it, but guys, I see huge potential in what Nick is doing. And I've just been following his journey like crazy and always learning from him because I really,
Likewise, man.
yeah, man, like, much respect. So, yeah, I didn't want to kind of like derail you. I probably did talked too much about that,
It's
but
all good.
it's just like if you can read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, I think that would be a very interesting thing to add to your reading list because it really
Yeah.
dives into what you're doing specifically. And I think it could help you a lot. So
I think I'll definitely add that to my list.
yeah, man, because you see that people are really getting value from like what you're doing, and I want to give you all the tools that I know. You know, you obviously know a lot more than me regarding the subjects, but help you succeed.
I appreciate it though.
Yeah, always, bro. Just trying to help people, and you know, you got to keep each other in check, keep each other on the grind, or else we can get derailed.
Exactly.
So where do you ultimately envision? I think this was my fourth question. So you've talked about like the freestyle and your new route that you're going. Where's your vision leading you, and what are there any other things that sort of are making up this vision as well? Like, how's this all coming together for you in the future?
So
Ideally.
I want to add my action comedy to my shows where it's like I'm on a stage and I can do these hard freestyle skills, but I have a character to it, similar to what people do in routine. But I want to like take routine but do it in every show. So the last performance I did was like last 2 weeks ago, I think. It was a birthday party. And one of the things I made sure to do there was kind of let my personality show through. And when I do shows, I freestyle it. I don't like to set out a plan unless it's going to be like a really good show. So I was just freestyling it, but throughout that whole time, I was making sure, I was making facial expressions. I was moving my whole body. I wanted to show them I was fully present and I'm here trying to entertain you. Like I want you guys to look at me and either be like, man, that's hard, or laugh at me or whatever. I just want to be the best performer I can be. So when I focus on that, it always makes me think of my action comedy stuff because I'm like, man, I know I could get every single person in this room to laugh right now if I was going to go for a backflip, landed it once, but for my second one, I did one of my action comedy moves where I fall over my back and hit my face. Do I actually hit my face and hurt myself? Not really. But it looks like that, right? And I know that for my my movement right there, I'm going to have a whole lot of expression from everyone in this room. So I'm like, there's ideas there. There's things where my action comedy can create an amazing performance. So I want to continue to be the best performer I can be and, see where that takes me. I want to play on, bigger stages. I want to compete and, do better. And another thing I want to do is take freestyle to a much more, I don't want to call it dangerous, but freestyle with a higher stakes. That's the best way to put it. So one of my favorite films I've ever seen was called Roof Culture Asia from Store, a parkour group. Have you seen Store?
I've watched a lot of their stuff. I haven't watched the specific video you're talking about, though.
Yeah, it's called Roof Culture Asia. It was there. It's like a movie. Like it was in some theaters and stuff.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was a serious like film, like really well put together. I've watched it many times. It's one of my favorite films I've ever seen, and it's basically them doing parkour at height, where if they fall, they die. Like there's no second chances here. And an interesting part of that was they prepare for years, obviously. Like when they get up and do these jumps at height, there is no thought in their head that they're going to fail. And my inspiration I've drawn from that is, what if I did freestyle at height, where if I mess up, I die. But I'm so good at this movement that when I'm up there, it's not like it's different. It's, if I fall, I die, but I can't fall. There's no way. I've been doing this for years. There is no way I can fail. And I want to reach that point of of mastering a skill to the point where I can do it at a height where nobody else can, because I'm so intact with this trick. So I definitely want to take freestyle to higher stakes there. Obviously not reckless by any means, but I want to do freestyle with a little bit more danger aspect to it. And I think that could also go hand in hand with maybe like movies or something, where I could do, if there was a sports movie and they needed a stuntman where when they were playing soccer, he ran into the post and did a backflip. That could be me, you know? Like,
It's like that movie with Shaolin Soccer.
Exactly. Like that could be something where I can make a new avenue for freestylers, where I maybe get into the acting business and they realize, oh, maybe these freestylers can potentially play these roles.
Interesting.
So I think generally speaking, I think my form of movement can be a great way to put on performances. And that's basically my goal, is to put on the craziest performances I can in every aspect.
Wow. So you see it, the way I basically got this from you is you see it as twofold. One is pushing yourself, and the second is providing as much entertainment value as you can for audiences. Is that correct?
Precisely, exactly that.
Okay. Wow. That's, dude, I mean, honestly, I don't have too much to say. Like, the ideas you're just telling me, like, we just gotta wait and see. I want to see them play out. That would be so crazy. Yeah, so also talk about like your new book that you're working on, because I know that's something that you've been telling me about. You know, you don't have to reveal too much, but
nah, I won't reveal too much. I was writing last night, actually.
Really?
I have a new book coming out. I don't know if I've released the title yet, but I guess I could release it here. It's called 15 Life Lessons from a 15-Year-Old. So, while from my 14th birthday to my 15th birthday, I would write not every day, but every single week. You could look at things I've written and be like, okay, like this is how he was feeling. These were the thoughts. These are the things he learned. And throughout looking at everything I've wrote and my emotions I've written down, I took 15 lessons that obviously I experienced at the age of 15, also some before that I made connections to while I was 15. So now I'm 16, but all the lessons were outlined when I was 15. So, yeah, it's basically 15 life lessons that I learned throughout my first 15 years of life. And right now I'm just working on expanding it and trying to give the most detail possible. And the main thing is making it applicable to anybody's life. So I want readers to read it and be like, I can apply this lesson here, I can apply this lesson here, and give the reader 15 life lessons that they can apply that could be from anybody, but it just so happens to be from a 15-year-old, which I think is a unique approach.
Wow. That's interesting, because it's like, that's so powerful to me, because you're taking such a strategic approach at a young age, where it's like you still have that fire from your youth, but at the same time you're using these tactics that like most people don't figure out. A lot of people never figure it out, bro. And like those who do,
it's true though.
It takes them until they're 30, 40, 50, 60, and you're doing it at 15. So it's like you're kind of like a triple threat. You're like, you know, you have the passion of your youth, and you couple that with these strategies that you've actually thought about more logically. So that's really interesting. I'm super excited. I mean, I've told you before through DM. I'm going to be like the first person to get that book, bro. I'm going to be sitting there and be like, yo, I got to pre-order this.
Waiting on the website till the release date, you know, the midnight launch.
Yeah, so like I'm on my really computer's excited, like refreshing the page.
Yeah, refreshing the page every second.
Bro.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've been spending a lot of time with that, and especially since I've just notepads, like hundreds of pages filled up with my writings over the past few years, that I know that if I can shorten them down to a book length, that can really bring value. And I think the main thing with when I'm writing, I'm not going to give away any of the specific lessons or any of that.
No, you don't have to.
I have teasers and stuff that I've done, and I've posted one of them so far on my Instagram. But basically, I wrote the lessons so that no matter what stage in your life, you can apply them. So if you read this book and you're 10 years old, it can help you. If you read this book and you're 50, it can help you. If you read this book and you're 80, it could help you. And that was my goal, is to have universal principles that also have specific examples that are directed towards people of any age. So some of the examples I use are like, hey, when I was 10, this happened. So if you're a 10-year-old reading the book, you're like, oh, I can learn from this. And, other lessons are, here's what I learned from this experience with my dad who's 50. So it's like, oh, if a 50-year-old is reading my book, he's like, oh, that's a lesson that maybe I could apply. So basically my goal is to have these principles, these lessons that anybody can use. And that's the thing I'm really excited about, is I can help people, as well as, using this book as my outlet. Like, a lot of my writing over the past few years, not most of it, all of it has been very real. Like, I don't hold back when I write. Like, in my book, I released one of the parts is, while reading David Goggins' book, actually, one of the things he says is to be real with yourself his is to break yourself down, right? Mine isn't that, because I'm not going to take his approach in, a book that's, generally, being applied to everybody. You take his principles, you could turn it to whoever you want. My principles are more like, here's how to improve your life, but you don't have to work yourself to death. So one of my principles is about, reflecting on what you're doing, right? And I don't want to take the easy approach, like, oh, see something wrong in your life and, slowly work to fix it. But I'm not going to take the David Goggins approach of work on it 10 hours a day until you fix it. Don't sleep until you do that. And for someone like me, I'm like, let's do that. Like, that's rad. Like, I'm going to do that. But obviously, my way of working doesn't work for everybody. So I wanted this book to be a little bit more universal. So when it comes to reflecting, I say, take your ego out of it. And if you want to help take your ego out of it, look in the mirror and write what you see. And your first draft of the things you're going to see is like, oh, this person is, good looking, or this person is, ugly, right? You're going to have your basic things you describe yourself as, which is depending on your ego and, how you view yourself, your self-confidence. But then I also say, break yourself down without ego. Think, if someone were to be looking at you who is the least judgmental person, what are they going to see? And then considering the things that you've written, that you've already written down, and then considering the things that you've written from another person's perspective, who are you? Like, who are you really? One of the things I say is, like, if you're a fat person and you look at yourself, you may think, oh, this person needs to lose weight. From another person's perspective, you might be like, oh, this person's fat. The thing is, both of those are slightly, I shouldn't say they're both slightly wrong. Both of them are real to an extent. It's not healthy to be obese. So if you're fat, like, you should most likely lose weight if that's, something you can do. But from another person's perspective, if you think everyone views you as some terrible person, that's not true either. If you're struggling with your weight, that's a problem, but it's fixable. And there are people who will support you. So one of the things, I have mentioned is, don't let your ego play a part in it. So if you have a destroyed ego, that's like, everyone views me as terrible because I'm fat. It's like, no, people most likely don't view you as a terrible person because you're fat. And people also don't view you as, oh, he's the nicest person because he's fat. Like, that's not true. People view you for a much more real sense of you. Like, your close friends, your close family, they know who you are. People will judge you on first looks, but people know who you really are once you get close to them. So when you're reflecting on yourself, take out other people's opinions and also take out your own opinions. You got to look at yourself with completely neutral eyes. So consider how people view you. Consider how you view yourself. And now that these thoughts are out on paper, how you view yourself and how others view you on paper, you now get to look at this sheet of how you're perceived. And now you take out physicalness, take out your physical sense of it. Who are you really? You can be fat, but you could be the fittest person at heart. So what do? My physical sense of me has gone out the window. I'm fat and I'm lazy, but deep down in my heart, I know I can be disciplined. That's perfect. Now I know that my own perception, other people's perception is flawed, but in my heart, in my soul, I know who I am. So now you can go and act on that. But the only way you can do it is by finding all the things about yourself, which you're going to eventually get to the bottom of when you reflect and, keep writing things down. When you look in the mirror, you can't escape that person. You can't lie to yourself. You're going to find out who you are, and then you can choose to act on that. And, throughout the book, I help outline how you can act on that. So that's one of my favorite parts of the book. And that's why I went in depth to it here, is like, it's a little bit of a hard concept to understand, but I see a reaction here. Maybe it like clicked for you, but Yeah, it's slightly hard to understand, but once you do understand this, and so when I understood it, I was like, it's so freeing. I want to live through my soul and who I am, and my outside, my just physical flesh is going to determine it, but not entirely. I could be the ugliest person alive, but in my soul, I know I'm like a really nice person. I could have tattoos all over my face and be perceived as scary, but in my soul, I know I'm a good person. So you can, go and act on these things. You see people who are in like jail documentaries who seem like the nicest people because their outside, their flesh, their actions, things like that have determined how everyone perceives them, but in their heart, these people are good people. So it's like you could be fat and lazy and everyone knows that and you know that, but your soul is telling you like you're not this way. You are disciplined, you are fit, but you haven't acted on it. So once you break yourself down and reflect on yourself without ego, you can find out who you really are and, act on these things. That's how you can change your life.
Bro, take the mic. Drop the mic.
Goodness, man.
No, don't drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
That is super powerful. So I know you have to go soon. It's almost 3:30 your time, and we have one question left to wrap things up. But I want to ask you a question on what you just said. So, and it's actually, I'm very glad that you brought that up because this is the whole reason that I started Ballaware. Is like, not because, I want to, get into the e-commerce trend and, fashion design. Of course, like, I really enjoy all that stuff, but I think for me, this brand was something that was bound to happen because what I've seen is like in my life as well is that self-awareness is like one of the most crucial things that you can have.
Yeah,
like
so key.
If you do not have self-awareness, like you can grind, you can hustle, you can change your habits, you can do all this stuff. But if you don't know where you're going, how the hell are you going to decide if you want to get in a car or if you can walk there or if you're going to take a plane or if you're going to bike there?
Exactly.
Like you don't know those things. You have to figure out.
It's the key to so many things.
Exactly. So it's like, I appreciate that you touched on that. It's like, it's almost talking about like, all right, there's that destination and then there's that person that you see and the physical place that you are now. And it's like, what's the gap between me and that destination? And then you can figure out, all right, what tools can I use? Should I drive there? Can I walk there? Should I run? Should I run 27 miles without training? So I really appreciate that, bro. So my little bit of a monologue. My question for you, how do you bridge that gap between yourself, like from, I'm not sure how to word this. How do you bridge the gap between what people see and what you know of yourself? Because to come to know oneself, we ultimately have to be able to see ourselves from a third perspective, as you said. But how do you do that when what makes us human is the fact that we are emotional? We're not 100% logical. We can't see ourselves through just that logical lens. So how do you do that?
Yeah. So you don't have to see yourself through a complete and utterly, completely logical lens. You just have to get close to it, right?
Okay.
So, I outline in my book much more specific. I mean, these last 10 minutes of, us rambling about, ego and, these things like that is obviously very, like, sporadic. Whereas, in my book, I can explain it much more concise and clearly, and it's much easier to understand there. But basically, other people's perceptions of you aren't the same as how you perceive yourself, but on a physical, emotional, and mental level, it's similar to an extent. So like I said before, I'll change it up. If you're ripped, you got a six-pack, you're 195 pounds straight lean muscle, everyone knows you're fit. Everyone knows you put in work in the gym. You know it, and everyone around you knows it. There is no denying that. And there's the same for many things of how you look and how you talk. You can tell people's mental states too. If you walk, slumped over every day, you don't make eye contact, this person mentally is not in the best place. You know that yourself, and other people are going to know that too. So when you have other people's perceptions that are lined up with your own, you relatively know what is real. So you're shredded. You know you're shredded. Everyone knows you're shredded. You can look at yourself. You know it, right? But that is only true if in your soul you know that's how you are. Like, that's how you are meant to be. So for me personally, I know I'm not supposed to be 220 pounds of straight muscle. You know, my brother, for instance, dude is shredded, right? He's been in the gym for years, eats super healthy. He is, you look at him and you know this dude spends time in the gym and is about that lifestyle. But for me personally, I know I'm not meant to be, fat or obese or anything, but I also know I'm not meant to be completely shredded. And the reason I know that is because, one, through my, reflecting on myself, but two, what are the things that feeds my soul, right? So this is another thing that you could do to, answer the question is, what are the things where you feel so happy that you can't explain it in words, right? So for me, one of them is landing new combos or new action comedy clips and whatnot. So one of the more recent things, landing Palais around the world. That was an incredible feeling. Some of the videos I haven't posted of me doing action comedy kind of stunt work there. Some of those feelings are so good. I can talk for 10 hours straight and I will not be able to pinpoint why it feels so good. And the reason I can do that and express myself through this physical movement and experience that is because of my physique, right? My physical state is how I was able to get there, right? So if I was 300 pounds, I could not do that physical movement. There is no way. But that movement and completing those physical movements fills my soul, right? I know this is what I'm meant to do, but also I know this is what feels best to do. So however physically I need to be to get there, I need to go and do that. So for me personally, I work out and I eat decently healthy, and I also don't partake in things that hurt my body, like drinking or smoking or, not working out for a week. I know what I need to do to get to my optimal body to complete these things that fill my soul. So maybe the thing that makes you feel so alive is finishing a book. Let's say you love reading. To read a book, you need to be at a certain, mental stability. Not necessarily stability, but you need to be at a certain mental level, right? If you're in first grade, you can't read Harry Potter and understand it. Like, you could, but the average first grader isn't going to understand, right? So you need to be at that certain level mentally of, being able to understand, being able to cognitively grasp what you're reading. And when you finish this book, you understand it all and you feel so good. So you know that you need to keep your brain healthy to continue doing that. But someone on the outside may be like, you're lazy because you spend all your time in your room. You know that's not true. You know you spend 9 hours a day reading. That's harder work and more time working on the things you love doing than most people spend in a week. So to answer your question, to get to the root of what you want to do is to understand what fills your soul. So to get to that area, yeah, that's it, bro. Clip that one.
Wait, where's the notepad? All right, what are we at? We're at 110. 110. Let's write it down. Bro, I'm gonna have so many sound bites.
Yeah, so basically,
okay, keep going.
If you know what fills your soul, you need to do whatever you can do to get to that point, physically and mentally, to be able to complete that. And other people's opinions and your own opinion of yourself in a physical form will differ. If swimming was my favorite thing, I'm going to have a body of a swimmer, right? If I love rock climbing, I'm going to have a body of a rock climber. If I love eating, hell, if my favorite thing to do is competitive eating, I'm probably going to have a little bit of a stomach. But if those are the things that fills your soul, you need to do whatever you can to be in the physical and mental state to do those.
Wow. Yeah, so My card is full now, so just on the computer. But
Perfect.
bro, you just summed up like the reason that I started this brand. So like I'm not even gonna say anything else. Like it's not about the design. Like sure, I want to spread the message through the clothing and all of that, but man, this is it. Like getting people to realize this idea that, like you said, what fires you up, that's how you determine the path. That's what you gotta like do everything you can to get to that state. So yeah, I mean, we've sort of hit on everything, so we can kind of wrap up, and I'll just ask you, for no one's watching there anymore, so just for the people watching, what do you do? And of course, we've talked a little bit about it, but what do you do as a person to discover and learn about yourself and about the world, like on a regular basis? Just some sort of quick, helpful things, maybe just one or two things that people can take away from this and be like, I can start implementing this in my daily life to better sort of understand myself and work towards the goals that really do fire me up.
Perfect. Two things I do every single day. One, write, and two, cold shower. Cold shower, I hate cold showers. I'm going to take a cold shower every single day for as long as I can foresee in the future because I hate it, and I know it's not going to get any better. It never gets any less cold, but I hate doing it. And that, one, makes me appreciate the things I like a warm shower, even more. And two, doing things you don't like, improves your mental toughness, and that's something I take that seriously. I think that everyone should work on themselves to become mentally stronger, mentally tougher. And two, I write because I need to reflect, and like I was saying before, my opinion and other people's opinions on who I am are always going to be slightly flawed because my soul knows what I want, but how am I going to achieve that in reality? By writing every single day, I can reflect, make things a little more logical, a little more reasonable, a little easier to digest and understand. So at the end of a year, I have tons of pages. I can read them all over and be like, man, like I'm on the track to do what I really want to do. Some people think I'm stupid for following freestyle. Sometimes I question myself, but I'm not letting my opinion or other people's opinions dictate what feeds my soul. So cold showers and reading. Cold showers and that's another one. Clip that. So cold showers and writing every day. That's something that I think is a great habit for me, and I think other people could definitely find value in that too. That last one right there, that sums it up. You don't even need to end this, or you don't need to sum this up right there. One sentence. We don't need to post the rest of the podcast. Just that right there.
Bro.
That's my book too. I'm not releasing my book anymore. I'm posting that 10-second clip of us two talking. Bro. And we've completed it.
You just like summarize all this knowledge. It's like the reverse Big Bang Theory. Like everything was packed into like this small amount and created this whole world. And then Nick is just going to take this whole world and the meaning of life and pack it into one sentence.
Oh my gosh.
It's done. Everything makes sense.
That was perfect.
Man.
That was a great way to end it.
That was a great way to end it. Bro, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed this. I learned so much. I'm sure that everyone watching this has learned so much as well. And yeah, just thank you for being the kind of person that's fearless enough to follow what they're really passionate about, because I think
thank you.
There's a lot of people in the world nowadays that like they just listen so much to what society tells them, like, all right, you got to be good at school so you can go to college, so you can get this kind of job, so you can marry this kind of person, have this kind of house
exactly.
And pay this kind of taxes and die this kind of way. And it's like, but so many people just sleepwalk that way through life.
Yeah, and just go through life without thinking about who they are.
Exactly. And I love having these important conversations with people like yourself, because it's like, it's enjoyable, but at the same time, it's like this is
people listen to this after they've listened to this whole episode, man. They're in a better position. Like if they understand what we said and, implement these things that we've said into their own lives, like, it can only go up, you know? Like, it doesn't hurt to reflect. It never hurts to improve yourself, you know? It just gets more real, more freeing, you know? Your life just becomes better. Life's such a beautiful thing. Why try to collude it with all these other people's opinions and, you know, all these crazy things? Like, live for you. And when I say live for you, living for you may mean living for other people. You may be an activist for, you know, human rights or something. Like, if that's what feeds your soul, go and do it. Just do you. Like, don't stop worrying so much and just do the things that you believe you were put on this earth to do.
Dude, perfect. Couldn't agree more. Well,
yes, sir.
Let's stop it right there, bro. The value is too much at this point. Like, my computer's going crazy right now. Computer's bro, I'm just a computer and this shit's so fire. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna swear, but bro, man, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, I hope we can get together and talk soon once this craziness in our world is over. But for now, that was really helpful, really amazing, bro. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
Make sure to follow Nick. I'm going to leave his Instagram down there. Is there any other resource? He's flexing the shirt again.
shop.bellaware.com. Heart t-shirt.
Yeah, no plug there. Oh, let me just turn around real quick. It's not like there's a design right there. But plug Nick's stuff down below. Is there any other resources like where you want people to reach you other than your Instagram?
Nah, just my Instagram and my YouTube. Nick Seyda is just my YouTube. If you go to my Instagram, you'll find my links to everything else. Like, everything is on there.
Perfect. All right, guys. So check him out. Follow his journey. Super inspirational guy. And until next time, be great.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.